Hello and welcome to Rauta's opinion videos. Today is not so much a typical opinion about this and that, but more about kind of like general pondering about the topic. And the topic is obviously music and even more metal music, but this time we're talking about money. Now, recently I read a piece of news where it was said that music industry is doing better than years before. And actually, the reason I'm making this video is that even more so than the music industry is doing well, bands are getting more money than ever before. Now I'll tab for a bit in order to, make sure that I don't talk crap with my figures and numbers, but rest assured that it's gonna be me doing the talking, not the reading. So this is a industry report from 2017 where it was said that the music industry was 43 billion United States dollars, and musicians got only 12% of the number. Now that sounds quite small a figure considering how much musicians are doing for the whole industry. Consider this: without music and such as musicians, there wouldn't be the whole industry in the first place, right? Yet still almost 90% of all money, that is all money in the industry, goes to other people. Well, there are lots of people who are needed in this industry, obviously, because musicians, for example, they don't build stadiums, they don't sell their gigs usually, they don't manufacture their merchandise, they don't, do their legal stuff and so forth. So there are lots of people who are eating from the musicians' pool of money, and some of them are for a good reason and some are not so good reasons. Now, I'm not gonna start a debate here how much should a musician get, because these are all actually matters of deals and laws, obviously. To put it short in a way, if you do a bad deal with a record label, you can blame only for yourself, that is. And if you don't have a lawyer who you are probably going to pay for their help, you can also blame it on yourself. Unless you have your own label, your own promoter, whatever list goes on, you need to hire somebody. Or then you have to do it yourself, in which case you have to pay yourself salary, which again is a different thing than actually creating music, that is riffs, doing drums and whatnot. But I'm already sure you all know all this. But the trick here is, out of this 12%, things are actually going better. The thing is, back in 2000, bands were averaging something like 7% only. 7% versus 12%. That is like 50% growth. And the trick here is, it's mostly because of touring. We all know that Spotify, YouTube and Deezer and other services, they are not exactly gold mines for bands, or not even labels maybe. But the thing here is, it doesn't really matter, because the bands are making their money out of touring and merchandise. And this, what I have gathered in my years in the music, not so much the day job, but in the music industry as well, to me this comes as no surprise. I don't know how many people actually realize that, but even underground bands can do quite a nice amount of money, quite a lot of money, just by selling merchandise. Obviously, if you're a nobody, nobody's gonna book you, nobody's gonna buy your stuff, be it your releases, t-shirts, caps, whatever. But when you're actually somebody, when you're actually even an underground band who has a cult following globally, then you get these nice gigs or even tours, and then you end up actually selling a nice amount of stuff. So you don't actually have to be that a big band to actually make some nice bucks. And while I won't be mentioning any names here for various reasons, let's put it this way, I know for a fact that some bands can actually make quite a nice amount of money, even to that extent that one can actually take a leave from work, with no pace and all that stuff, and still make it worthwhile. Not just because out of, experience on doing gigs and seeing different places, but because actually it makes you the green. So it has been a lot of, talk and bitching and moaning and all that stuff that, bands don't get paid what they are supposed to. That might be totally true. I mean, after all, there are so many ways to actually have reasons for that. And I guess most musicians are right about that. I mean, I've done my share in creating music and, doing albums, and basically I never got barely anything. But to me, it doesn't have actually, I have been not bothered by that, because for me and many other people like me out there, it's not the money why we're making music. It's totally different reasons. And by the way, I basically never toured with any of my bands, so that doesn't really concern me. But of course, I think many musicians actually should deserve more money from what they are doing. So in this respect, from 7% some 18 years ago to this 12%, I think the thing is going to the right direction. I mean, that's quite a growth if you consider that if you have like 50% raise, basically, that's a huge load of money, almost on any scale, unless if you were talking about 10 bucks versus 15 bucks. Nevertheless, it is a amount of growth that cannot be just, ignored. And still, bands and people in general are bitching about that. Now, there are so many ways we can actually try to fix things, but moaning and bitching isn't exactly helping. What people actually could do is like work more. Don't do music as a hobby. I mean, obviously you have to do it some point because you need to pay your bills and all that stuff, and it won't just happen when you get your first acoustic guitars and you're doing just some learning and trying to cover some band, with your crappy ass riffs and all that stuff. But people are so many times actually bitching that they don't get this, pay, and why music isn't worthwhile doing because albums don't sell and blah blah blah. But people often forget this, that the amount of band is constantly growing. Well, I don't have figures to actually back this up, but I mean, doesn't matter how long I have been doing, for example, reviewing music and all that stuff. Every week, basically, I get albums that I have no idea of. I mean, bands and their albums. And I've been doing this quite a bit now. And still there are bands just, popping up everywhere. And I'm just talking about very small subgenres in a way. It's not like I'm trying to cover the whole field of metal or rock music. No, I'm just focusing more on the death and black metal side. Thrash and heavy, yeah, too, but anyhow. And still there, new bands are popping all the time. Of course, some old people are creating more bands than one could actually handle, but that's kind of beside the point. I mean, we still live the generation that most people who kind of created the whole metal music are still alive and breathing. They haven't kicked the bucket yet. So at the same time, we're getting new people, new youth, new generation of people who are also interested in, playing an instrument and then, playing in a band and all that stuff. So we don't still have the phase where it's like everything is going in cycles. That it's like old people are dying and the new ones are going to replace them. But we're kind of stacking up. So instead of losing bands like Black Sabbath or even Kiss, Iron Maiden, Metallica and all that stuff, we still have those old dinosaurs, those kind of mammoths. And yet we are stacking up more and more bands from all kind of different genres. And not just only the old genres, all the time new kind of genres are born. And older people, and I'm not talking about 6 years old people, I'm talking we as around 40s, we are already getting grumpy because we are not able to accept all these new genres. Say metalcore is a typical target for people, but it doesn't. We don't have to go back more than like early or mid 90s when grunge was an enemy of metal music. Not to mention nu metal. Nobody's talking about Limp Bizkit being the enemy of metal anymore. Now it's all about, you know, these metalcore bands. Is Avenged Sevenfold or Five Finger Death Punch or bands like Volbeat are the threat to metal music. Yeah, sure, if you are not able to stand up to the kind of competition, if you are not able to create better songs, and okay, better is kind of a weird word because it's not like there is a consensus, you know, how people define what is good music. Now, this is kind of going off road. What I'm trying to say here basically is that bands are actually doing a lot better, and you can pretty much figure it out from all kind of you know, metal festivals that are growing or already being, you know, sold out. I remember when I first went to Wacken Open Air, it was like 2003, I think, so 15 years ago. And back then there wasn't this much talk about, you know, being instantly sold out. But nowadays I think it has been pretty much almost all the year, every year it has been more or less sold out for so many years as I can almost remember. And you can also see lots of kind of a small indie festivals getting bigger and bigger. And this is not even a country dependent thing. Well, of course it is to a certain extent, but it seems like even kind of a no-name festivals are big names nowadays. And then again, also countries that never been seen as a, you know, as a metal country, they have, you know, gotten new audience. And of course internet has done a lot to help this, because now just basically anybody can hear anything when you just, you know, release it on Bandcamp or these other streaming services, and people all around from like opposite place of the world can basically hear your song and just want to see your band alive and whatnot. So we are living growth. We're kind of living, I don't know if you can call it golden era or whatever, but we are living in an age of music that actually things are going really smooth. And if that also makes these underground bands be possible to tour more, to do decent money with their merchandise, I think we are really in a happy place. So for a while, people might just consider stop bitching and moaning and crying about all the things in music with our music industry which are going wrong and focus on the good things. Have you ever before seen this many good and interesting bands in your local festival, or maybe a festival in a couple hours of drive away? I mean, it doesn't really matter where you live. We live the era where even small underground bands can basically go global, and you can get to see those bands that you never dreamed of before seeing live, and now it's all possible. Maybe thanks to this growth. Who knows? What are your thoughts? Is music industry going to bad or good direction? Is all this money and industry growth good thing, or is it just ruining the good thing for everybody? I have decided what I'm thinking. What about you? Thank you for watching, and as always, see you soon with more Rauta stuff. Cheers.